but we've got some questions coming in.
Okay.
Oh, it's a question for me.
Yeah, there is a question for Yang. How do we get knowledge transfer back into the UK? What parts of the Chinese immersive tech ecosystem can we learn from?
I think this might be this is a very interesting question. I worked with Shenzhen University previously, so for their future media institution. I'm looking into the Chinese immersive technology development. I know some Chinese VR companies in Shenzhen, and I know some Chinese VR companies in Xi'an. So they also deliver really excellent Chinese own ways of immersive technologies. For example, like the Shenzhen company I work with, so they created their own hardwares, and they are trying to develop the shared immersive experience through the VR glasses designed and developed by themselves. So there are quite a lot of tests and try in the Chinese R&D regions. So people are all researching into how the immersive technology ecosystems could be used. But I must say, I think compared with the UK's development towards immersive technologies, China is not getting into the normal life or getting into the daily life that much as we are doing here. So there is still huge potentials and still a lot of the technology knowledge exchanges we can learn from each other. So because of the Chinese consumer also have the different expectations from the UK consumers. So how we could understand Chinese consumers' demands and how we can design the immersive experience based on the Chinese consumers' habits is also an interesting thing to look into.
So the next question is about the audiences, and have the audience needs. So I need to scroll down a bit. Have audience needs in the UK and China changed in a similar way as a result of COVID? Any differences? Did the COVID affect the audiences in a similar way?
I think so. I mean, speaking in the sort of games space, I would say there was a lot of there was certainly a lot of interest in sales of more social experiences, especially at the in the early back in March, etc. Sort of early days of the pandemic. Consumers were were interested in. It's interesting, people. There was a lot of interest in things like Animal Crossing, which was obviously a very sort of cute experience where you're inviting your friends over to your island, but it's a kind of curated sort of sense. I was just saying the amusing contrast between that and people now playing Among Us in the latter stages, which is a game about paranoia and etc. So, but I think in general there was an interest, there was a move towards social experiences, which were already popular, but certainly people wanted that connection early on in the pandemic.
Yeah, and
so staying home kind of made people more interested in social gaming, right?
Yes, but I mean, there was already a large market in that, but I think, out of necessity, people were forced into that.
Okay, Yang, you wanted to say something as well?
Yes.
Sorry.
No, this is very interesting because from the fashion markets or the fashion bit, what we find out is relating to COVID specifically is, I would say the Chinese market is less impacted by the COVID if compared with the UK market or the UK situation. That was majorly because so the China's pandemic or the lockdown situations was happened during the Spring Festival. So it was the national holiday at that time anyway. And then so the China is quickly so speedily to recover from the COVID quite soon compared with us. And the situation is being controlled very well in China currently. So from the fashion market, for example, so there is a different so reporting feedbacks from so China and UK market. So the China, I mean, still remains the same. So people, what people are wearing or what people are dressing, so they remains the same. And for the UK, we might wear more pajamas than the formal suit or than the formal dress, etc. But there is obviously some impact on, so for example, the Chinese the trading market. So I mean, especially trading markets with other nations. So I think this is a global issue. I think in this type of issues, we remain in the same page.
So you think China is not so much affected internally, but there are some effects, negative effects on the kind of exports and the international trade?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, are you aware of any shared cultural experiences that resonate with the UK and Chinese audience? So I did mention TikTok, which is probably the most popular, and that also became, even more popular during the lockdown here, right? People started creating and sharing those AR, based videos. Are there any other similar kind of experiences which already exist, or maybe are in the kind of workings that you are aware of? Are there any games which are kind of selling well in both countries already?
There certainly are. I mean, I think the Chinese games market, massively multiplayer online games are very, very popular as a genre, and esports games also are popular. There are a number of Western titles that are popular in China, things like Overwatch and League of Legends, Dota. Those kind of esports titles are definitely there's a lot of crossover. I'm looking forward to seeing some Chinese titles, break out and become. I don't think we've really seen that happen yet, but I think we're very close. I think there's potential for some of the sort of AAA style high production value console and PC games to really break out. And when that happens, I think it'll open a doorway really to a sort of pipeline, and also educate and develop Western consumers' tastes to a certain extent. Once people see that kind of content, they will know what to make of it and go forward. But there's certainly a lot of overlap, and I mean, yes, there's a lot of content and that Chinese players pretty much exclusively play, but they play a lot of South Korean games as well, and there are Western crossovers as well. But the market in China it's as I touched on in the main session, it's really it's mobile and PC. It's not as skewed towards console, and you could argue that the market in the West, it's only the media that's obsessed with console as much. The mobile market for games in the West is huge, but it doesn't get reported on as much by the games media because it's they don't find that as interesting or whatever. So it's certainly, I think there's crossover one way at the moment, and I really I feel that there's opportunities for it to happen the other way, and I think it's inevitable, and I think it's going to happen fairly soon.
Yeah.
Thank you. What about Chinese fashion? We know that many kind of famous European brands sell quite well in China.
Yeah.
But are there any Chinese fashion brands which are interested or that already may be successful in Europe?
Yes, actually, in our commercialization workshop, so Shu introduced and interviewed some Chinese fashion brands, such as Sand River and Aurora Museum. So as she mentioned, Sand River is the cashmere brand. So they produce the cashmere products and also the lamb's wools in a sustainable ways. So they gain success on their business for promoting this kind of new selling market. And there is also another company called the Silk Market. So Shu interviewed Chu. So they also bring a really good quality of products into the EU market. And for one of our other industry partners, so POP Fashion, so they provide the online platforms and AI and machine learning algorithms and computer technologies to the fashion and textile brands over the world. So they have really good connections with some EU partners too. So there is definitely, as so Hailey just said, the commonalities there. So basically, it's the way that we can find the correct people to work with, and how we can share the same experience and exchange knowledges to speed up on the collaborations. So that is very interesting things that we can explore together.
Okay, thank you. There is an interesting question about, which I just lost on my screen, sorry. I'll try to summarize it. So if we knew what was awaiting when we were applying for the projects in terms of the pandemic and the lockdown, would there be some different planning going on in terms of how the project should be carried out? I can say that I did mention this before, I think, from our experience. We did initially plan to kind of visit China and for the Chinese partners to visit us here, and then to do certain collaborative workshops, which we now are doing on Zoom, and they work quite fine. I think in some ways it's probably easier to gather more people. I don't think we would have a workshop with 40, 50 people around the same table at the same time, which we did manage to get, through Zoom. We are exploring some new tools like Miro, or there is another one called Klaxoon, which used to kind of, brainstorm ideas and do the post-it notes exercises, right, between China and the UK. So certain things are surprisingly positive in a way, right? I know it may sound strange to say that, but what's your experience in terms of like how you had to kind of accommodate the new ways of working, and whether you looking back, whether would you have done something differently?
I would say, yeah. I mean, it's a facile answer, I suppose, but we would have put less travel in the in the plan, but yes, that's kind of obvious.
Yes,
I don't know. It's kind of, personally, it's kind of hard to comment because we are really just starting. We applied for extension and were granted it, and I think we started this month. My lead investigator isn't here to correct me, sadly, but he would be able to tell you. So I think we'll just be reaching those, discovering those problems now. For us, I know some other projects have been able to run, in the absence of being able to travel, etc. But I don't know. I think one of the things that's going to really help us is the experience that we have had with delivering learning materials online over the past 2 terms. So, since March, I mean, I have a full program over the summer, so I teach on the masters, and that experience was really invaluable. communicating remotely in general, but also working with a group together. I mean, what we do is like it's meant to be studio simulation. So you know, we're trying to create the same kind of atmosphere and motivations that students would have in a professional games development studio. And I suppose it actually is a simulation in a pandemic if it's all remote, because that's what all you know, the games studios in the UK moved to that model. But I think we can take the lessons learned from that period of.
Thank you. So we've got some new questions coming in. One is the ideas generation or R&D process similar or different to how it is done in the UK? So what's the difference in terms of creative processes in China and the UK? My view, my experience from this is that, you know, I think overall, I think it takes longer to produce things because there is more engagement in the UK than in China, because it takes, I think the UK institutions, and I'm talking about the cultural institutions like the National Gallery, take more time to understand the audiences before they go into production stages. I'm not sure what's your experience in that field.
My experience is, I think sometimes it might take more time to get started with. So I mean, working with the Chinese partners for the ideas generations or R&D process, but it gets a lot faster on the developing stages. So once the ideas could be determined, and the Chinese partners tend to be acting really fast. So it does share some similarities or the common things as, I mean, how it is done in the UK. So for example, like the so KTP type of project, so you need to find a company and then you can work with the company to apply for the government fund, and then the government will match so some funding resources for the applied applications. So these type of things. So I think the process remains the same, but it's just so these so generating the ideas, approach the companies, and to talk to the companies and exchange knowledges. So this process tend to be long. And I think Martin was quite right. Is I still feel like face communications sometimes works better.
No, definitely. And there is also a question on engaging with audiences in doing research, which I guess also extends to doing market research. Maybe Shu can tell us a bit about this. So what are the kind of market research practices in China when it comes to doing, you know, market research within China, but also internationally?
Okay, I think from my point of view, it's more commercialized rather than academic side. So when we are talking to corporate or client, so for us, we are very down to earth. For example, because when Martin mentioned about gaming, because I worked with game company before, and Yang definitely on a fashion company, we worked with fashion company, and also National Gallery, Museum Gallery, we work with them as well. So we normally come from very practical approach, say what's the issues they want to solve, and then we come to say what's the problems they have, and what's the resources they have available, and what they need, and whether they can get it internally or with partners. And then maybe we can see what's a model to work together. So this is normally we will to collect information and see, look for the solution and see how we can work together and find a model to work together, and then come back to see whether it's doable or we need to readjust the schedule. So this is a kind of collect information, apply to the real life, and revisit the resources, and then come back to the process, the normal process. Yeah, because sometimes Chinese are more result oriented. Yeah.
Thanks. There is a question for Martin. Martin, with your UK-China project, are you bringing players from the UK and China together? Do you consider both UK and China gameplay styles, or do you put them in a game space and do you put them in a game space together and see what happens?
That's a really interesting question. I mean, we're looking more. That's more on our kind of audience research side. If you know, we're going to be scoping the projects, we will be looking to try and get experiences that are, you know, that are a good cultural fit for both markets. I mean, my personal interest is, I mean, obviously that's a huge part of what we're going to be doing, but it's the culture of development as well, the culture of production in both places is really particularly what I'm interested in and what my research is exploring, shall we say. So having a mix of student teams that are, you know, we've got undergrads who are generally UK, mostly Scottish based, but we have students from all around the UK and from North America and Europe as well. So there is a mix. And then on the improv, getting a team to do the same game or maybe even build on the foundation that Western team has created, having those students take the project over, and it's going to be, you know, entirely Chinese developers or trainee developers. That's going to be an interesting space, and to see how they're used to working. Also, working with the different partners. So, you know, we've got a bunch of Western industry partners, but on the Chinese side, and we're still looking for, you know, if anybody's interested in working with us on this, you know, we'd love to hear from you. It's just that it's a case of, you know, just get in touch. We're all, myself, Robin, Graham, and Charlie are all really, really approachable. So it's a case of, you know, how those people who maybe work as a client is a little bit with the teams, what the chemistry will be like there. You know, with for instance, a Chinese academic partner and a team of Western students, how that's going to work. And I think that's one of that's really, you know, not only in an academic environment but in a professional environment. Those are the lessons we really want to learn. Those are the kinds of things that we really need to explore and be able to articulate clearly by the end of the project.
Thank you. Last question for all. How can people keep up to date with our research projects? So are we planning any UK events coming up? So we publish things which we do in Story Futures China on the storyfutures.com, which is a website that is kind of sharing information about Story Futures, Story Futures Academy, and Story Futures China. And as we move along the project, we are going to be publicizing more information. We did run few events through Story Futures as well. There was a large event, actually 2 events, for the UK companies who are interested to join us in producing the experience for the National Gallery. So I would say for Story Futures China, please have a look at storyfutures.com. I also agree that there should be more events like this where we kind of share our experiences, but that's probably something which we'll have to talk about with Arts and Humanities Research Council.
And for our project,
no, sorry, please go ahead and tell us about your kind of approach to sharing your findings and progress. Right?
So for our project, we share all the information on www.augmentedfashion.co.uk. So all of our upcoming or past events will be on this website. including the previous 8 hours commercialization workshops I just mentioned, and all of shows interviews to some Chinese companies such as Rural Museum and Sun River Cashmere Company, and also Silk Market companies. So these videos content, they will all be available on our website. So please to keep eyes on our website. Thank you.
Thank you. Martin?
We have, well, there's the in-game website as well. I've just asked my my lead investigator if we have a dedicated page elsewhere. As we haven't started, we haven't really been advertising. We've been reaching out to people directly. So this is one of those things. But the in-game, the Dundee Creative Cluster is the place that you can find it out. Also, we have a page. Yeah, it's Innovation for Games in-game is our website, and you'll be able to find out developments there. Thanks.
Thank you. For our project, we're planning to participate in Tongji Design Week, which takes place every year in China, in Shanghai, and do some events there. But obviously this year that's been cancelled. Hopefully next year we may travel to Shanghai. I think that's Shu, did you want to also add anything about how you kind of communicate what you do to the audience, to the external audiences?
Yeah, I would definitely like to share, because when we just started the project with Dr. Yang, and we were talking about how we can deliver workshop in both countries, and then COVID-19 happened, but always new things happen, because when we're talking about sustainability, when we're talking about heritage, craftsmanship, and then I have partners in China, they are very interested in sustainability fashion, and they start to connect me with a China designer association and Ningbo, and also Ningbo Design Association. So they are all very interested to working with international partners. So this is something new coming through the project, and then I pass the opportunity to Dr. Yang, say maybe we can co-develop something together. Yeah.
So the idea would be to develop new networks out of the project.
Yes.
Thank you. I think we I think we are finished now with all the questions, and we are going to close our Q&A session here. There is also the message. Yes, there is a message from Martin showing where to kind of follow information through Twitter. Thanks a lot. And is there anyone else that maybe wants to add anything still?
No, just thanks for
Okay.
for taking the time. It was really nice chatting to everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, I really think we should have more opportunities to share experience from our project. So,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And this is where we close the Beyond Boundaries session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Many thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.